everyone. Hey, welcome to this reading. This is the November PSY Global Earth Prediction Series. This is a very broad, expansive reading. It is encompassed by collective energies. So I tap into the feeling of the vibes that is coming from you and all the other people on the planet to see what is going to happen or what type of energies are coming in the timeline or horizon event line for November. Now I generally use these cards here, which are the Psi cards, but I have introduced tarot decks as well, and I'm also going to pull one card at the end from the Visionary I-Ching Oracle deck as well. These are very intense cards. I'll only pull one for the month. So as we embark on November of 2020, we're coming in towards the end of the year. A turbulent year it has been in many ways, but we're also crossing some very powerful scenarios that are happening both astrologically and here on the planet. Now one of them is the USA presidential elections on the 3rd of November, I think it is. So whether you're American or not, or whether you follow their elections or not, one way or another, whoever gets elected into power there will affect you personally, because America is a very big global power throughout the world. So what happens to them affects us one way or another. So many eyes will be watching the outcome of this election. So we will see if anything shows up in the cards that might specifically pull itself towards the American election. But let's start first with these cards, the tarot for November 2020, to see what is in the air collectively and what people are thinking and feeling. This is for November for the Global Earth Prediction Series. Ooh, the Nine of Swords and the Six of Wands. So this is one about tension, anxiety, darkness, obviously, also things that go on at night. And I look at all those swords and I think, what do they reference? Could they reference combat or fighting or stabbing at something? The Nine of Swords is one of the least liked cards in the deck, and it does mean anxiety and tensions, night tremors, feeling worried, panicked, anxious about things, experiencing situations that occur in dreams or dream scenarios like nightmares as well. Also lack of sleep, insomnia, not being able to fall asleep for various reasons. This could be a little bit associated with the day of the 31st of October, which is Halloween's Eve. There's often a lot of movement that occurs in and around that time from a spiritual perspective. Things can come and go. The veils are very thin, so there could be something tied into there. But this card is a great card, one of the most loved in the deck. This is the victory card, meaning someone is going to feel victory in the month of November. And it's often after a long and arduous battle almost, because he looks like he's been to battle. He has many people behind him who support him. So this victory is not won by yourself. It is won by people who help you get to this point. Unsure who that could be hinting at, but of course we've just talked about the American elections coming up, so there is a possibility that we will see a victorious outcome one way or another. I'm not sure who that's going to represent. It is a fire sign card, and I think both of the potential leaders, Trump and Biden, I think Trump is a Gemini and Biden might be a Scorpio. Anyhow, neither of them are fire signs. And we've had a whole bunch more come out, and I normally wouldn't pull actually too many more from this deck, so I'm not sure why I went ahead to do that. We have the Seven of Wands now, which is kind of like this feeling of agitation, feeling as if you have to defend yourself over something. But then we received the Fool. This is brand new beginnings, heading in a new direction, and feeling as though we've turned a corner and we are starting a new project. Also the World, another really big card to come out. It's about the ending of a cycle and starting a new cycle as well, and knowing that you have come to some form of completion in that realm. Now, in the card of the World, we have the Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarian signs. Look, it's strange. I'm beginning to think here this might be pointing to Biden. Victory for him, the brand new beginning, because it would be like the new political party, a new beginning because he will be the new leader. And his sign is possibly represented more in here than Trump's sign. I just had to check the birth dates to clarify, and Trump is the Gemini and Biden is the Scorpio. So Scorpio is represented in here, and the Fool and the Victory. Well, that's an interesting possibility, isn't it? I still think there feels to be some sort of animosity or tension or like darkness or things that are going on in the dark. And this guy here, he's very aggressive as well. He stands his ground. He won't give up on a cause that he's fighting for. So we almost have, interestingly, the way the cards have fallen, we almost have these two columns here. This one seems to be far more powerful or potentially heading in a new direction, especially because of the two major arcanas. And these two here are much more about the gloomier, more sullen aspect of life and feeling like, oh my God, this can't be happening, and I'm determined not to give up. So it feels as though we've got maybe two parallels happening in life. I can't guarantee that this is Biden. I might be referencing that wrong as well. Maybe I have to do a little bit more research. I will just have a quick look at the astrological signs that the Fool and the World card represent as well. Well, after checking a little bit more in depth about who these major arcana cards might be representing in terms of astrology, it definitely isn't a Gemini or a Scorpio. However, if you look at this, you think that's 0, the very first card of the tarot deck, and this is the World, the very last card of the major arcanas. So we've got the beginning and the last card and a sense of victory. So this is something about big cycles changing. It's like an evolutionary wheel that is spinning into action. So I think these cards may be referring to the American election, but they may be referring to the whole cusp of change that we are currently going through in this timeline at this present point in time. Now, I've been feeling for the whole year that we're going through something very bizarre, like a change out or a switch up or a move over. I feel strongly that we have walked through the doors of the age of Aquarius, and this is the farewelling of the age of Pisces and moving into this new age. And with that massive change of a shift of ages, which we are caught in the middle of, we will find all these strange perturbations and movements occurring, and they're very deep, and they're going to go on forever more for the lifetime of all humans that we're aware of on the planet for now, because this is a thousands of year shift that is occurring. So these cards could be, as I say, indicating information about the American presidency, but I do feel they're going much, much deeper and broader than that. So I have predicted earlier that the 20s were going to be the brand new decade that shifts the way we understand life on this planet. And I think as we've moved towards the end of 2020, it has become even more apparent, and more people are becoming aware of this existentially large shift that we are moving into. But coming back to a little bit more information, so the Fool represents Uranus, and the World card represents Saturn. So Capricorn represents Saturn, which is about governments, and Aquarius represents Uranus, which is about the age of Aquarius at the very beginning of, and especially in this change of ages that we're moving into, we will see massive shifts and changes potentially in things like government institutions and governments and rules and the way we live. So I think we're on the cusp of really big change, and it might be that change is brought about through negative issues that prompt us to make changes. So we can interpret that in two different ways, I guess. We're moving into this new age, and with that will come tempestuous change that we struggle to understand or grow into. So there is in-house fighting along the way, and that in-house fighting creates the formation of new laws or foundations or structures for us to lawfully move into the new age. So I think we are on the cusp of incredibly powerful timeline or transition for humanity. I don't know where it's going to take us yet, but I suspect, like anything, that period of change is quite tumultuous. So we can expect to feel upheaval, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's growing us toward understanding evolution and how we move forward. So wow, yeah, I think that denotes potentially a vastness into the future, not just the month of November. But we've been talking about this all year, and I'm not an astrologer, but for those who are astrologers, they understand the depth of the power of the alignment of these planets that are taking place. And these alignments haven't been here for 2,000 years roughly. So this is how deep it is that we are in the crux of transitional change. So very, very powerful in many ways. I'd like to know your interpretation of what you think these cards are. Do you think this favours Biden more than Trump? At the moment, it almost looks like it does, yet I personally have felt for some time that I felt that Trump would go back in. So it will be a very interesting election to watch in a matter of days. So yeah, plenty is happening. Let's call upon the Psi cards to see what is around now for November, connecting with collective conscious energies. So this is for November 2020. They're definitely thinking about, oh, the birth of something new. Yeah. They are thinking. They normally come out a little bit quicker than this, but it is what it is. This is November 2020. Oh wow, look at that. We've got the Fool out twice. Two different decks with the Fool. So very, very powerful messages coming in here, regardless now of whether we're talking about an election for the USA or we're talking about the grander scale of the evolutionary process of where we're headed in life. I do think this is a very big timeline that we've moved into, experiencing some really interesting things. I didn't mean for the deck to be turned upside down, but we have the Prison card, which I'll stick over there. Kind of fits with those energies. The Tree, the Family Tree, the Libido, which was out last month, the Home, and the Work card. What we're seeing here with these ones is not too bad. The two that have the most power in the deck are the Fool and the Libido, and they're sort of connected, I guess, on the diagonal there. So there may be a bit more potency within the power that both of them hold. But if we come back to the Birth card, it can represent the birth of something new. So a new direction, new power surging, new impetus, new ideas, new creativity. I sometimes think too of this as being a volcano. Although I know it's not, it sort of looks like something erupting out of the earth here at this point. So it can be volcanic activity. We also see that there's water involved in this. There's big droplets of water on here, and there's heavy watery looking sky in the background. Sometimes this can represent intense rainfall, like a massive storms coming in. So again, cyclonic storms, things that disrupt the seabeds, they can come from land or sea but create internal tsunami type situations. And right underneath it is the libido card, which also represents a very similar activity and action. So these two cards are essentially again powering each other up because of the position that they've fallen into. So I think there has the impetus for very strong weather implications in the month of November. Intense storms, massive rainfall, possibly in some places, inland treacherous experiences and situations. There is also the possibility that this is a mass compassion event. So we've seen this in October and November. When a card duplicates its energy 2 months in a row, that can also mean more power is given to that card. So the mass compassion events can come from, interestingly enough, the USA, and they can be mass deaths or suicides or shootings or something that's not pleasant, and it creates a compassionate event. It can also be other compassionate events that are created due to something like a big flood, or people or villages being damaged, or crops wiped out, which could be the inference of this up here. Sometimes there are crops on the planet that are really damaged in storms or floods or fires, and that goes towards creating famine, and that creates mass compassion. There is also the tendency here for animal die-offs. Now we've seen a lot in October. It was actually really a harrowing month for the loss of animals on the planet in many different perspectives. So we will see more of them. We also see this cat over here as well, again referencing animals. The Fool card can represent earthquake activity, and we've got earthquake and volcano kind of tied together here. So there could be volcanic earthquake related activity. This also represents shaking and quakes. Now interestingly, the Fool card sits beneath or on top of the Home card, and I often think of the Home card as my home, because I'm the person doing the reading. So sometimes this can reference events and situations occurring in and around New Zealand, or areas in the Pacific, or Australia, or up in Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu, Samoa, Fiji, Cook Islands, areas like that. Now it may be weather related, it could be geographical such as earthquakes, or sea related events. It can also be political events, because we've just had our elections here in New Zealand, and we're still going through some of the movements of taking shape for the new parliament and some referendums that had taken place. We come to the Tree card, and it's very red and hot. So I often think of fires for trees, or fires that are in the environment. Not necessarily burning buildings, but that could also be representative, but sometimes big bushfires. So there is a possibility that we still see a lot of fires around the globe. This is becoming a major issue when we refer to climate change or climate extremes. The Work card is one that I've never really been able to nail 100%. I look at it and I see like the workings of a clock. So I often think that time is a major player in the reading when this card comes out. So it's like an evolutionary card. It talks about the movement of time. Now that makes great sense when we reference these big cards over here, and we're talking about moving from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, which is a whole cycle of massive evolution of time. It also does refer to big engines like ships, boats, planes, trains, and issues that can come up with them. So whether or not there is something to do with travel and the vehicles that we travel on during the month of November, that's also a possibility. The Home card can also represent fires. So we see 2 fires here on the diagonal joined as well. So I think fires are going to be represented in the month of November, and this one can represent building fires. So perhaps we see an increase of fires one way or another, including building and environmental or geographical type fires. I'm sure there's more depth going on here that I haven't attached yet. You know, we see the prison and there's this big ray of sun coming in there. So sometimes this is insinuating the sun plays a role, and this could be to do with the astrological formation of the sun. We're coming up to the eclipse season. I think there is one in November and then one in December. So this may also reference that the eclipses are going to play a major role in some sort of energetic disposition that comes across the earth, or that plays a role in formatting the future for us. We also see the sun quite prominently here on the full card, and of course we've had the full duplicated twice. So the sun is also moving into a new cycle this year, a new sunspot cycle, and that could also have relevance in the way things are playing out for us all. So there's plenty in here to consider. It feels a little convoluted, especially given the major arcanas that turned up. The prison card can also feel like being locked down, locked into something, not able to get out, feeling as though you aren't free, very much like this Nine of Swords over here. The prisons may come up, there may be objects or discussions or situations that involve prison, or people who are sent to prison, or prisoners, or, you know, held captive by the police, or situations along those lines as well. So with all that in store for the month of November, it's a busy month, there's plenty going on, and it does seem to span its tentacles over many different areas of concepts and movement and action. So it's not just limited to one dynamic. This is for November 2020, and we're only taking the one card from here. What is the overall collective conscious energy for this month? These are the I-Ching or the I-Ching, I'm never sure which way to say them. A very, very old divination system, possibly one of the oldest or the most well known. This is for November, whoops. So we have some here, and we are only taking one for November. Gathering together, lake above, earth below, 45. Let me read to you what it says about gathering together. I think this one came out actually when I did the reading for the Trump and Biden election a month or so ago, and I think this was one of the cards. The power of gathering together is represented by a rally where each individual's strength is magnified by the collective power of a community. For instance, history has shown that mass movements can bring about stable, ordered, and durable conditions for the better. This reading may be pointing to an auspicious time for large group events or undertakings. The guiding force of a shared vision is essential to align united forces and keep your people advancing toward a common goal. Another image is that of a lake or basin filling with water. Just as the fullness of the lake can bring good fortune to all in its realm, it can also overflow, leading to disaster. In a time of gathering together, it is essential that precautions against unforeseen dangers be considered, along with efforts to advance the common good along a clearly charted course. Much of human misfortune comes from unexpected events for which we are ill prepared. When gathered together with others, we are more powerful. Even in some ways, we are also more vulnerable. Any time of gathering together is a time of potentially great power, which can be either positive or negative. Everything is magnified when masses of people join together for a single purpose. When many people unite behind a single goal or strong vision, it is wise to take personal precautions, protecting your reasonable self-interests, because they can easily be lost in the melee of the crowd. So I think that is a general message to say that mass crowd gatherings could be places where there may be negativity. Now, this could be insinuating that the big C, the big virus thing that we've all been trying to avoid for the year, may have a greater impact, especially where crowds are gathered. It could also be forewarning of other dangerous events that could happen in mass gatherings, such as riots. So everyone, be careful out there, be safe and be well for the month of November. Take care of your own personal health and remain calm and enjoy the positives of this new evolutionary change as we move through it. Thank you for joining me, everyone. Leave your comments. I love to hear them all as well. Take care. Much love. Namaste.